Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the GCS Connect Leaders series. I've got a really interesting episode for you today. We have Niamh Muldoon, is based in Dublin, and she works for a company in trust and security and data, a company called OneLogin. We really wanted to speak to Niamh. She's a very inspirational character and someone that can, one, tell us a lot about data and security, but also being a female leader and someone who's worked for some of the most interesting companies in the tech industry. So we've got lots of good stuff we're talking through, really making sure she talks about her history within the tech industry, about how it's really important to find the right culture so that you can really be confident in your decisions as a leader, and also talking about those innovative products that are really going to help the data industry to grow and to help deliver great solutions for customers. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and here it is. Here's Niamh Muldoon. Thank you. Hi, Niamh. How are you?
Good morning, David. I'm great, thanks. And yourself?
I'm very well, very well. Looking forward to this conversation. Another
Likewise.
episode of Leaders Series. We've got Niamh Muldoon here today from OneLogin, as you can see in the background. She's DPO and really the leader of trust and security for OneLogin. 22 years experience in the industry, and someone that my colleague Elizabeth and Oisin have been speaking to, and we felt it'd be very interested to bring her on to the interview, find out more about the world of data and security, and also talk about leadership, both in terms of the kind of US software side, but also as a female leader, trailblazing. And good to know the advice that you have for us. So hi Niamh, how are you?
I'm good, David. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm delighted to be here and share my experiences as a leader for OneLogin here in EMEA.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a very kind of successful career for yourself. I mean, if I look back, there's some really kind of big brands and some really interesting organizations that you've worked with. I mean, do you want to just tell us a little bit more before we kind of start the conversation about your background, about the companies that you work with and what you do?
Sure. So I started my career, would you believe, as a Lotus Notes developer for Allied
Wonderful.
Irish Banks. I joined their IT graduate program after spending a summer working for MIT testing pension systems for them. That's where I really got my graw for, and the graw being the love of technology. And
Yeah.
within a few weeks of me starting, September the 11th happened. And the
Mm.
security team was looking for somebody to help them secure mobile devices. And back then there was no iPhone, so it was looking at access control software and tooling for the mobile phone and the PDA devices. And I came up with a solution working with a company to be able to securely get email on mobile phones, the Nokia 6310i.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a classic. Is that the Nokia phone? Is that the Matrix phone, like the banana phone that Keanu Reeves had or whatever? Is that one or?
No, I don't think it was. It was like the gold front on it. That's all
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
that's
it as.
classic Nokia's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They
And it
don't make
was,
them like that anymore, do they, Niamh?
don't make them like that. The battery life. So I used to have executives in the bank that wanted to keep the phone for the battery. That was
Mm.
a key feature. And from that, then the head of the security team, Declan O'Shea at the time, was like, "Would you like to stay working with us?"
Mm.
Shortly after that, Rusnak defrauded the bank for the biggest fraud in US history. Was it 800, nearly 800 million.
Wow.
So the next 3 years of my career were spent going around the world with Declan doing business unit health checks for security practices. So looking at the technologies that they used, how they were carrying out their business, the processes, and talking to the people about security. And looking back now, I'd be greeted going into the dealer room with a list of passwords for the different systems on a laminated sheet. So that's kind of the culture of passwords, access
Mm.
control that we were dealing with back then. I stayed
Yeah.
in the bank then for 12 years, moving from divisional into enterprise roles and really working on transformation programs, working with Marcel McCann, the COO at the time, um, when he was collating all of the financial HR systems into a single view. So that's where I saw the benefit of having a single view of data, working with Marcel in the business enterprise office. And then after about 12 years, there was a lot of changes in the bank. The financial crash had come. I had worked on the NAMA program doing all of the security around that. And I kind of reached a point about what was I going to do next. A lot of the leadership team, the people that had sponsored my career, were no longer there. So that's when I moved my career to Paddy Power, becoming their information security program manager. Paddy Power had had a data breach a couple of years previously. So they had put a lot of investment into the security program. First of all, looking at it from a technology perspective, and I was brought in then to transform them to be a comprehensive information security function. So building in data as an information asset, again, the training and awareness with all of the organizations. That was amazing experience for me. I got exposure to working with the board, because I used to have to help the CSO, Peter McLaughlin at the time, produce updates on the security program for the board. I got to put in a lot of cool technologies. Splunk back then was new. And looking at all the aggregation of the log data. So yeah, that was a great 2 years. And then from that, my confidence had grown, my skill set had grown, and that's when I decided I wanted to try privacy, and I went working with Workday at a global level. And really what the key attractor for Workday was that I'd always followed Henri O'Toole and Dave Clark, looking at their careers from an Iona perspective. And I was fascinated with, here they are now working at Workday, bringing their careers and the Irish to the forefront for technology innovators.
Yeah. So you felt it was someone that people you kind of learn from and grow as a kind of senior leader yourself.
Correct. And then I had the opportunity to work with Barbara Cosgrove, who would have been a key stakeholder in defining privacy at a global level. But I did miss the technical aspect. So then when Vanessa was looking for an EU leader for DocuSign for trust and security, I was like, oh my God, the job spec said you needed to speak French. I have very limited French. I can read it, I can understand it, but I wouldn't be great at speaking it. So I wasn't sure I'd put my name forward, and then they reached out to me. The other leaders at the time were Owen Hinchy in the Irish office and Thomas Kinsella, who now have set up their own company, Times. So everything fell into place. And I had amazing sponsorship and mentorship from Vanessa over the years. I currently work with Vanessa here now at OneLogin as well. So I think that was a key changing moment for my career, as in having the female sponsorship for my career directly from someone who was successful in the security space.
Yeah, so someone you can kind of look up to and see that you can follow that path, can't you?
Yeah, and I guess it's like the sponsorship around, I'm a mother. At weekends I spend my time on the sideline. I'm not on the golf course. I'm not making that network connections. So Vanessa would really go the extra mile and put her career on the line by saying, I know Niamh can do this. Let's give her the opportunity around the different programs of work that I lead and have led for DocuSign and now OneLogin.
Do you think that's a confidence thing? Like you just said there, a lot of what you've just talked about there are huge global programs sorting out a major, one of the biggest financial kind of frauds ever, massive data breach. And have you kind of constantly challenged yourself then to do these things because that's what really pushes your career forward, or is it, have people trusted in you and then you thought, no, I can't do it?
I think it has to come from me. I think somebody said to me a couple of years ago, Niamh, you've got amazing drive. I think maybe I was born in a decade too soon. I always wonder, if I was 10, 15 years younger, what would it be like to go through? I've had many challenges trying to get to my career to this level from
Mm.
a skill set. Like my primary degree is economics and geography.
Yeah.
So I worked, I used to get up at 4 a.m. when I was in the bank to study for my security CISSP. I
Mm.
was the only female in the room sitting that exam.
Yeah.
Then when I get into the industry, in the bank, I really didn't see the gender diversity item, even though when I was working with Marcel, he was the first executive to actually make two women executives. So that kind of opened my eyes to it. But it was when I left the bank, I really saw the gender diversity and the bad behaviors.
Mm.
Um, and that kind of gave me extra drive to stand up and to really say that I have the experience, I have the skill set, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And do you, when you mentor other people now, and you've talked about being mentored yourself, is that the key? I'm trying not to say this in a, you know, uh, disparaging way, but is that the key thing that you have to work on with
Yeah,
other female leaders? Is that you can do this? This
correct.
isn't just a jobs for the boys thing. You can break this, and you can do it as well, as not better.
Yeah, so that's a great point. People I've interviewed a lot, we like to have a diversity and inclusive pool set candidates
Mm.
to going through the interview process at all different stages. And it's rare that a female will come back and ask for more money, more benefits.
Mm.
But one guaranteed, you will always have a male ask for some kind of extra. And it's the
Mm.
confidence thing. I know for myself, I need to have done the job before I could really speak with confidence that I could do it.
Yeah.
And maybe that held me back a little bit in my earlier years around my career, was definitely a confidence thing. So I mentor people coming into the industry with fit,
Mm.
and through my network, people that are at midpoint in their career and then leaders. And at all three stages, it's a confidence thing. So I break it down, down into the passion, the merit, the financial need, their network, and their sponsorship. And
Mm.
they're the five items I tell them to bring their career around.
Yeah.
And when they meet those challenging times, either through work or through a behavior that they experience, is to think back to those five items and write down your next step, how you're going to get there.
Mm. And I think, just it's just quite interesting, kind of what you were saying there. So, kind of bringing it back onto the kind of data and privacy and access management side.
Hmm.
You've obviously dealt with, whatever type of leader you are, you've dealt with quite a lot of big challenges. When those things happen. I mean, for instance, you just mentioned about the AIB one and that data breach. I mean, it sounds like you can rightly say it wasn't on my watch. It kind of happened before I came or whatever. But how do you deal with those situations? Because I'm sure that in your business and in your job, that's what you're trying to prevent, but every now and then it's going to happen. So what do you do? How do you circle the wagons? How do you get everyone fired up to solve the problem?
So data is liquid gold, and
Mm.
understanding your data and having a single view of your data will help you make informed business decisions for
Mm.
your business. It also reduces cost and risk. So the first thing, if there's ever an event, I'm always looking to know what data is impacted.
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to me from a data perspective.
Mm.
um, the types of data, is it regulated? um, do we know that the data has had accidental or unlawful disclosures? What were
Mm.
the controls in place? It's all around the data. And what I'm seeing right now is, we have a lot of people that are very technical savvy around security, um, and not necessarily their skill set or their experience isn't around understanding data.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now with the changes to the privacy regulations, you know, it's really building that mindset into your security teams from the start, so that they get used to making risk-based decisions around data throughout their career, and then they can speak to the various different audiences, technical and business, around the controls that need to protect that data.
So it's not only, is obviously security is about making sure that someone can't get in, hack you, get the data. And then what you're saying about the data is making sure that it's not, even if you're in, it's not that easy to get regulated data. You have to go through, it's like an onion ring, I guess. You have to keep peeling it back and to actually get the real liquid gold, right? You have to
Yeah.
protect and cover it up once you're inside the system.
So the authorization, yeah,
Mm.
it's the layered approach to protecting the data, and that's really where the privacy comes in as well. Um, it's the authorized use of the data, making sure that it's only really used for the business purpose that it's collected, and
Yeah,
being
yeah,
transparent with your customers in that way. And the foundation of that is your identity and access management
yeah,
program and framework and strategy.
yeah. So I guess, you know, for a layperson like myself, thinking about someone's bank account details, that you can only get to someone's bank account details if you have a certain level of privacy and access management, and it's not just available for every single person that works in the organization, right?
Correct. So if you're working in the financial team, it makes perfect sense for you to have
Mm.
access to that data type,
Yeah,
financial data. If you're working in HR, no, there's probably not a business reason for you to have access to that. And it's the whole maturing of that.
yeah, exactly. And as you've kind of come through your career and you obviously overcome these challenges, do you still see people making the same mistakes? Like, are people getting better, do you think? Or is it like, I've been seeing this for the last 22 years, you guys always do this?
So
Is it
access control has been around
yeah,
for, as long as I've been in security, 22
yeah,
years. It's the core discipline. But what we've seen is changes around the technologies that used,
mm,
and the access control isn't, it's not something that people focus on right now. And really, from the surveys that OneLogin has carried out at the start of the pandemic, and then
mm,
towards in quarter 4, so we carried out one in May last year, and then in November, December timeframe, it's still, so the first thing is people got their businesses back up and running, pumped the data into the cloud, into collaboration tools, and kind of live with the risk around access control. So they took it from secure systems, made it available. But towards the end of Q4, we weren't seeing good security hygiene
mm,
applied. So to devices, that layered approach that you spoke about, antivirus software, the use of VPNs, and then on top of that, access control,
mm,
the use of multi-factor authentication. So the extra layer of security on getting access into the systems that have this liquid gold, the financial data, the HR
mm.
data, it's not there. That being said, there is a huge increase and a demand for identity and access management expertise.
Mm.
So we have seen our product offering grow significantly as people now realize being able to work from home is the norm, or
Yeah,
to work from anywhere is the new business model. And for
yeah,
companies to drive their business forward and attract top talent, they're going to have to offer that
yeah.
to their employees.
We've got our first people working in Malta, or someone working in Malta now, which is quite
Wow,
exciting. There's someone in Malta and someone in Nicaragua at the moment.
nice
So
one.
these are our first forays into proper remote working, Niamh. I'm quite excited about it because, I mean, you think about recruitment. I've always said you could do this from the beach, and would be lovely to do recruitment from the beach. Although it probably annoy your candidates when you're speaking to them if you're speaking to them from the beach. It's like,
Great.
but but I guess this is what you guys at OneLogin are seeing is that the workforce is becoming more dispersed. People are working from anywhere and everywhere on any sorts of kind of networks, and I guess it's kind of giving you sleepless nights, right? This is the sort of, are you excited by the challenges or worried about the problems, or both?
Sleepless nights, looking at it from the industry and the globe perspective. I take a great example of my son even going online to do schooling this time
Mm.
last year, the whole education piece there. But I'm super excited that, OneLogin's product offering enables that. And I
Yeah,
see the benefits around, not just streamlining access, and securing the access to that liquid gold, but it reduces the pressure and the stress on the security operations team because they have a
yeah,
single point of monitoring from an access
mm,
control perspective. And we have built in this AI engine that takes risk-based factors around human behavior. So the location that they're logging in from,
mm,
and then there are other characteristics around how they normally behave. And if they're not in line to the individual, they will we will do additional checks with our product offering to make sure you are who you say you are and you should be getting access in. And I really see that as the future of identity and access management. Then
mm.
secondly, the diversity and inclusion. We often look at communities and society, and OneLogin's product offering is in enabling people to work from anywhere. So they can live in the country, they can live wherever they want and
Mm.
carry out their roles. And I think that's key for businesses as well. Um, Sustainability and how can we create a diverse and inclusive workforce? Well, there you are, being able to work from anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned there with regards to kind of, so when we supposed to just taking the kids to school, et cetera, and that obviously changes the game quite a lot. That it's difficult to take the kids to school, look after the kids, whether you're a man or a woman, and then commute into work and then get back and that sort of thing. So where people are able to kind of work close to their home, be from their home, you can have a better family life, but also continue to progress your career, can't you?
Yeah. And then other people say, well, you need to be in the office as well to really get that
Mm,
dynamic. I think if you look at your team, and review the type of personalities, their natural behaviors, and really see that you've got that holistic view,
mm.
will really support you uh, around your team's future careers as well.
Yeah. So looking forward, what are your kind of main priorities as a leader for this year? We all feel that we're moving forward, hopefully from COVID. Ireland and the UK are now opening up, hopefully, fingers crossed. What are your main priorities now for yourself and for OneLogin?
I am their data protection officer. So it's really maturing OneLogin to be that thought leader,
Mm,
for a product offering around data protection. I still think there's a lot of misunderstandings around data,
mm,
and how it needs to be protected. Can it go across geographical borders? And what's the best model? I'm very much of the opinion a single view of data is needed. So it's setting up your framework around that. So looking at the laws, the regulations, the compliance requirements, then best practices like the ISOs, the SOC certifications that give your customers and partners assurance around their data is being managed,
mm,
and building that into your contractual commitment for your customers, and then
mm.
just being transparent around how you manage that data.
But it's really kind of almost more professionalizing, and giving a this is how it works. Because I do think, like you said, it's liquid gold, but it's also like a dark art, isn't it? People don't really understand it, do they? And I guess one login, that's what you're trying to do, is to try and make it more understandable for the customer.
Yeah, and to look at why GDPR came in the first place, it
Mm,
was to standardize how data was managed across the EEA region,
yeah.
um, around the consent, the controls to be applied. If there is, in the unlikely event that there is a data breach involving the data, how to get informed, the time frame around that.
Are you a fan of GDPR? Do you think they were necessary? Do you think it can be improved, strengthened? What's your opinion? Obviously, it's your specialist subject, I guess.
So I'm a big fan of enabling the businesses to move forward with these amazing technologies that are out there. I'm a big fan of transparency around the
Mm,
use of data, and GDPR has supported with streamlining that. I do think it needs to be looked at around how it's being applied and what are the challenges around applying it, and really working with industry experts at the technology levels can support with that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, even for myself as a business leader, there's a lot of areas where you're trying to do your business, but you can't do that because of GDPR, and it's almost like stopping your flexibility and innovation in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where I think the education piece comes in, is around, can you not do that, or is there a better way to do that where you're being transparent with your customers or your employees around the use of the data, and let's look at how best you can control it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there is quite a lot of grey areas, isn't there? If I, within my own organization, or you speak to consultants, I think that's not allowed to happen, but I'm not entirely sure. And there's no, generally, I know there's, in the UK, there's the ICO, but there's no one person you can kind of go to say, is this wrong or is this right, like a court of law, is there? I guess you get found out and get a massive fine at the end if you're doing it wrongly. But do you think it should be constantly reviewed and moved forward as other laws are?
Yeah, totally. The feedback on it, and I guess the fines and the breaches are a good starting point to see that. So what are the additional controls there that are really needed, and can we not build that into the framework? I also think there's a big educational piece with the boards and the C-suite. I'm a big fan of having a data governance officer, somebody that's responsible for data that sits at that C-suite and the board level, to really inform CEOs with the single view of risk for the data, because everybody comes at it from different angles. So legal, privacy, security, compliance, the business, customer support. And it can be hard for a CEO to make decisions or what's best for the business with all of these different impacts and requirements coming at them. So bringing it into a single view of an independent person for data governance can support the CEO. And from a European perspective, we know that we need to increase cybersecurity at the C-suite level.
Yeah. We've had a few conversations recently with, I think, Neil from PwC, Andy from Smart Tech, where they were talking about that representation right at the top. And I think that kind of goes around. And then, and obviously, I think for myself, that leads us nicely into the next stage of our conversation, which is really about being at the top, being at the board level. And yourself, we've spoken about being a kind of female leader. And still, would you say, I mean, I always ask this question, would you say things are better now than they were 22 years ago? Has there been improvement, do you think, in terms of diversity at that senior level?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So we've seen progress, but obviously not complete progress to what we want to kind of get to. So, when you're mentoring people, when you're being mentored, but when you're talking to other female leaders, what's the best advice that you can give them to help them continue to kind of progress their career?
So yeah, I always look at the board level, who sits on the board, the diversity and inclusiveness there, and at the executive leadership team. And I actually remember at DocuSign, even though I was wanted to work with Vanessa, I taken a look, it was very male dominant and I didn't see diversity and inclusion. And it was my first ask to Dan Springer when he came to Dublin. I was like, I told him, I gave him the feedback, and he took it on board and he changed it around from a DocuSign. OneLogin obviously had the diversity and inclusion both at the board and at the ELT. That accompanied with trust and security reporting directly into the CEO. From my side, I had a clear path from being able to do what I do from a Dublin, Ireland perspective. So that's the first thing. It's the culture within the organization for the area that you're operating in, and look at it from a diversity and inclusion perspective, because I think that really will help you determine, is this the right brand, is this the right organization for you?
And that's going back to the confidence thing, which is basically saying, can you confirm to me, or can you tell me what your plans are or how you feel about this, rather than thinking, well, I'll get there, get the job, and if I don't like it after 6 months, I might say anything, you know?
So I did that before. I was told that that a company wouldn't be for me. I wouldn't
Right,
do
yeah.
well in it, and I went out of my way to get the job, and I went out of my way. I worked really hard for the 2 years that I was there, and I changed the culture, got them going around a program about diversity and inclusion. But it was hard work, and
Yeah.
for where I am now in my career, I I think I have a lot to give, and having the right culture and the framework in place
Yeah, because
is allowing me.
it's how you communicate, it's how you feel you're working as a team, and like we've already talked about, there's huge challenges to deal with, and you don't
Yeah.
need another challenge on top, do you? You need to let's just focus on the job here rather than everything else. So I think it's important that that culture is set right, and there's obviously many things that a company can get wrong. And when we were speaking earlier, one of the things you spoke about was obviously the data industry, and there's obviously a lot of, it's liquid gold, like you said, and there's a lot of innovation and things happening. But the thing you were worried about was, one, the amount of people coming into the industry at the bottom, the junior level, as it were, but also obviously there's still the lack of diversity of people coming into that industry. And is that something again that you're working on, that you're trying to conquer, as it were, to make it a more attractive area to kind of come into for all people?
Yeah, so the first thing I do is to share my experiences as a leader, because for young girls, teenagers, it's important for them to see role models that they can
Mm,
aspire to. I really wanted to maximize my impact. And as a leader, I don't have much time to give back. I'm a mother too. So that's when I decided to take up a board role at FIT, which is fast track your career into IT. So it
okay.
just doesn't
Yeah.
look at the gender diversity. It's looking at diversity and inclusion in general. But they
Yeah.
do have a female only apprenticeship program
Mm.
around technology, which is great because it really supports females to have that network and that confidence to grow their career in the technology space.
Yeah, and it's a very important thing, isn't it? Because obviously, companies like ours, GCS, exist on the basis of skill shortages, but there is no real reason why there should be skill shortages, because the computers are an incredibly interesting, rewarding career, aren't they? The drive should be to get more people into this area, from all walks of life.
And actually, through COVID, the UK saw a huge increase in teenagers, girls taking up coding courses and
Yeah.
cybersecurity courses
Mm.
because other summer camps weren't available to them. So
Yeah.
that was one positive. So how
One
do we
positive.
take that motive, or how do we take that positivity and continue with it?
Yeah, I guess it's these things we've learned from the last 12 months that we hope will continue kind of going forward. And yourself, like kind of coming back onto the data side, how do you think, maybe within OneLogin, what are the next innovations within data that are really going to excite people, that are going to interest people to kind of move into this field and really help customers to to protect themselves better and use their data better?
So if you look at it, the market is ripe for one login in the
Mm,
fact being able to work from anywhere, but it's being able to work from anywhere from an ease perspective,
mm,
not compromising the security. So it's the continuation of building AI and risk-based factors into our product offering to really give like organization C-suite assurances for access to systems and the data.
yeah, exactly, and that's an ongoing kind of piece of work, I guess, and what you do there is obviously working with customers. And is it quite bespoke? Do you work in quite a bespoke way? You're going to go into an organization and then amend it according to their business structure, or do you guys prefer to, because it's a universal login, right? Do you prefer to say this is the way it should work?
I think it varies from customer to customer
Mm,
around the partnership approach that we take at OneLogin to their needs.
mm. The last thing that I was going to kind of ask has been a great conversation, Niamh, is obviously through your journey as a leader, what are the most important things that you think you've learned?
Oh wow, that's a I'm always learning. I continue to
Uh,
learn.
yeah.
I guess it probably comes down to, so I've done all roles around
Mm,
security operations, being on the incident side, the risk assessment side. And over the course of my career, I've learned that for me to be successful in a role, it really aligns to who I am as a person
mm,
naturally. And that's what makes what I do right now really successful from a OneLogin and my own career perspective, the
mm.
role that I'm placed in. So I'm a driver. I'm, if you look at my PI profile, predictive index,
Yeah.
my natural behaviors are, I like to talk, I like
Mm,
to talk things out, I like to be do innovation, uh, to be involved in different aspects.
mm.
I don't like control, to be controlled, or to do repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
So while I did security operations and I was successful in it, it was never something that excited me passion wise.
Mm, yeah.
I've led training and awareness teams, user behaviors, doing all that investigation works with the bank. I always loved that because I'm out learning about people, working with people, helping businesses move forward, which is around the innovation. Let's come up with new ways or processes. So that's my natural skill set and
Yeah.
something that I'll excel in. And in times of stress and strain, you probably go back to your natural behavior or your natural leadership style.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's interesting there is, I think you've said this quite a lot, is making sure that the role that you're in and the company that you're in, the culture that you're in,
Yeah.
matches you, matches what you want to do, and not being, is again, it goes back to that confidence element, is not of having the confidence to say this isn't right, I need to kind of go and find something that is right, or changing the actual culture to make sure it is right.
Yeah. And as I said, in my early 30s,
Yeah.
when someone told me, that's not the company for you,
Mm,
that wasn't good enough for me. I was like, I wanted to get that job and I wanted to prove them wrong. Now, it
mm,
came at a cost. I was working long hours. I was getting up at 4 in the morning, but I wasn't going to give in.
mm.
And it took its toll on me. I used to listen to Rocky, that Rocky. It's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and
Yeah.
keep moving forward. And I used to listen to that in the mornings that I go in and just know I had a set target and a set date in my mind about when I was going to leave, but I just wanted to achieve that, and I did.
Yeah, well, very well done, Niamh. And that's obviously testament to you and kind of what you're doing at the moment. But it's been a great conversation today, Niamh. Thank you very much. I'm sure if anyone's interested in the OneLogin products, or in kind of the sort of work you're doing with the fast track into IT, they can kind of reach out to you on LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Niamh.
Likewise, thank you, David.